Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer Podcast. I'm Chris Randazzo and joining me tonight is bizarre Ice Cube ad Dan Ryan.
I don't have a comeback for that. That's great.
He's got rings around his head.
It's
May,
Why?
And it's time for a new Stone Age starter kit, this time focused on Sega's ill-fated Saturn. Prepare your wallets, because the Stone Age Gamer Podcast starts now. Well, hello everyone. This is episode 409, Formula 409. It's the week of May 6th, 2022.
Why did you sound unsure about that?
Oh, I don't know. We have
definitely 2022.
We have some fan mail. We have some mail, Dan.
Ooh.
Brian writes, Mega Man and Bass has always been on my list of games to beat, but the GBA version sucks. Thanks for mentioning it's available on Super Famicom.
We got you, Brian.
I got an English patched version of it and played it on an emulator. The game was still a slog to go through, but it's now completed and crossed off my list. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work.
This game still sucked, so fuck you guys. But
it sucked less, which I heartily agree. I really need to get myself a patched version. I really wanted to get a back when Time Walk Games was still up. They had a really good looking repro of this game that I really wanted to buy, and I never got around to it. I have freaking FX Pack. I should just download the ROM and play the Super Famicom version someday. But I just did a video about where the heck is Mega Man Legacy Collection 3?
Yeah,
which
for real.
Is like, yeah, for real. I listed all these Mega Man, original series Mega Man games that have just either never been collected or should just be reissued at some point because they haven't been in a while. And the Super Famicom version of Mega Man and Bass has never been released in the America.
That's so wild. That's so wild. Like, it's not like Mega Man was not popular.
Yeah. It's like I almost get it because it was super late in the Super Nintendo and Capcom didn't really want to release more Super Nintendo games at that point. I get it. That's why Nintendo published Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the Super Nintendo. But still, It's freaking Mega Man. How come that didn't make it anywhere, ever, on any of the collections that they've released?
Yeah, that's just a weird choice.
Yeah. I did make the mistake of saying that Mega Man Battle and Chase has never been re-released. And I knew that was wrong. I had this feeling in my gut that it was wrong. But then I trusted myself and said, no, I'm gonna go with this. I feel that I'm right. And then I hit publish and I was like, I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong.
I'm so wrong. God damn it.
I'm wrong, but I can't find it. And it was released on the Mega Man X collection. That's why I couldn't find it.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because that doesn't make any sense when you put this on the Mega Man X collection.
Stupid
weirdos.
Capcom.
There was another error that was in my video too. And now I can't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter. Thank you, Brian, for the kind words, and congratulations on now probably never having to play Mega Man Bass again.
Yeah, right? It's not a game you're going to go back to. Maybe it didn't suck as much as I thought it did, and then you'll get through the first 2 levels and be like, nah, I was right, though. I was so right. The game sucks.
It's like me with the Star Wars prequels. Every couple of years, I'm going to be like, you know what? I should give these another chance.
Nope. He still said midichlorians. I thought maybe I was wrong. No, still in there.
By the time I get through Revenge of the Sith, I'm like, oh, man.
I don't even like Star Wars. I'm so bad. God. How do you mess that up? It's just, how do you mess that up?
How do you mess it up that badly?
It's one line.
But hey, no, those movies are misunderstood masterpieces. Okay?
Nope, they're not. Objectively incorrect. Not factual information. There literally is no argument. You might like them. I like the third one a lot. I like the second one only because Yoda fights. I don't know what the fuck else happens in that movie. But Yoda fights. He fights Christopher Lee. That's Christopher Lee, man. Like, that's not just Count Dooku. That's fucking Christopher Lee. That's wild. Can only be determined by our prowess with a lightsaber. Like, oh, fuck yeah, dude. I'm in. Cheering in the theater.
Count Dooku.
What a dumb name.
They had the name Darth Tyrannus just sitting right there.
Yep, it's right there.
They're like, no, it's Christopher Lee. He's Count Dracula, so we'll call him Count Dooku. Yeah. Like a little wink to the audience. We'll get some super problematic racist aliens to say it, too. It's not great. We must move quickly to disrupt all communications down there.
Oh my God. That's so bad. Even like 15, 20 years ago when we didn't care about people's feelings, that was still like, ooh, that's too far. Like, I don't know, George. You might want to fucking check that one.
I love their designs, though. They were such cool looking things, and they were practical effects too. It's like,
I know.
So cool.
It's wild. So
what you been up to?
We watched 2 video game movies this weekend.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, right? There's that many. We started the weekend on Friday night with the Uncharted film.
Oh.
And I got to be honest, I loved it to pieces. I thought it was great. It's
cool.
Not good. But I like, if you are a fan of the Uncharted games and you have played the games and you were like, oh, what are they doing? Blah, they're fucking doing this and whatever. Like, they just took some big set pieces from all the different games, mashed them into a movie, and they made a fun Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones style movie. It was a blast. Nobody's getting an Oscar. Nobody's getting an Oscar, and nobody's getting a Razzie either. You know, like, it was a good, fun action flick. Loved it. Everybody should watch it. Even Mark Wahlberg was okay. And I feel like that is a really high bar for Mark Wahlberg to clear. It's almost like he was acting in this one, Chris, which is really weird. Like, not every sentence ended as a question. He didn't have that weird nasally Mark Wahlberg voice. There were a few times where it was like, well, your accent's slipping. That's a little shitty. But like most of the time, the banter between the two was good. He sounded authentic. They didn't spend a lot of time on backstory. They just, they were like, so Nate had a brother and his brother disappeared. And now this guy Sully's here and he's a bartender and also a thief. And now we're in a plane and we're doing the plane across the map thing. And now we're into an adventure. Like, that's the amount of backstory that was there. And that's all that needed to be there. It was awesome. You should watch it. We then went on Saturday. We took the children to see Sonic 2. Now, you have seen Sonic 2, correct?
All of it. Except the post-credits scene. We had to leave really quickly. So
that sucks. It was like right there. It wasn't even like at the end of the credits. It was like a Marvel mid-credits scene.
Yeah, John was going to be late for a doctor's appointment. We had to, like, as soon as the credits started rolling. And I didn't want to leave because the credits are so cool.
Yeah, but, they were awesome.
We had to get the
post-credits scene was good. Spoilers. Woo, woo, woo. It's Shadow. Of course, it's Shadow. Anyway, you hated this movie, correct?
No,
I thought you hated it. It's not good. I
hate it. Exactly, it's not good. There are things I dislike about it. In particular, just how much better this would have been if it was just a Sonic movie in the first place, and not the. All right, well, we're gonna make a live action Sonic movie. Okay, cool. Let's tell a story in the Sonic world. There's tons to pull from. It's like, no. We need a human element so that the kids can relate to it. So what if Sonic was in our world? But didn't that suck with the Smurfs? Yes. Let's do it again.
Let's do it anyway. I I thought this one was much worse than the first one. For whatever that's worth. I did really enjoy Jim Carrey running away from the boulder and yelling, "I don't want to die like this. It's so derivative." I thought that was
That was a solid
hilarious.
joke,
I audibly in the theater was like, "Ah!" Like, and a bunch of people like turned and looked at me. I was like, "Nah, you guys don't know what fucking derivative means." Clearly, that joke wasn't for any of you. When I tell you that my children, Katie and Penny, had a visceral, full body reaction to most of that movie in the way that we had when Cap picks up Thor's hammer, it was amazing. It was amazing to be a part of. They were so excited and into it and just loving absolutely every second of it that I couldn't help but be like, this is just awesome. This is a watershed moment for them where they are getting to see characters in a way that they have imagined themselves looking good up on screen. Because, like, say what you want about, like, the writing, directing, all of that stuff. James Marsden sucks at everything he does. Especially Cyclops. Terrible. It's also a fact. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles looked great. No, they look great. The way, the moving, the colors.
Yeah, the stand-in still I would agree with. I feel like some of the animation was, I don't know, some of the animation made me feel weird in a couple of scenes. Like, the characters were saying something and it didn't seem like their eyes were really quite matching up with what was being said. I don't know, wasn't as good as it could have been.
I feel like you're setting a ridiculously high bar. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't notice that.
I mean, I watch a lot of kids' movies, I don't
There's anymore.
A lot of CG kids' movies going on in the house, and then I love animation, and I look at something like this, and I'm like, you couldn't even go all out on that. Like, I get that I get that you shoehorned these human characters into this Sonic movie universe. I get that now we have to follow up with Cyclops and his strange relationship with his sister-in-law, and that everyone at the wedding just happened to be a top secret agent, and the guy weird. Did fall in love with you, and we had to watch that in our Sonic the Hedgehog movie with all kinds of cool stuff going on. We had to stop and have that conversation where she's
just in the middle of Eggman mech.
Like, really?
Mustache mash.
And like, that's the part that was one of the things that really bugged me about this movie, is looking at like the things like the Eggman mech and them running around and fighting Knuckles, and like, how cool would this movie have been if it was just a Sonic the Hedgehog movie? If we never left that world, or he never came to the human world. We don't need to do that. Just have trust in your source material. Do that thing that no video game movie has done, and just
ever
have faith in the source material and make a movie based on that, because that's what kids actually want to see.
The Uncharted was pretty faithful, not for nothing.
But that's humans.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
There's that they didn't have to do anything to make that more relatable. Like, that was already kind of written like a movie. Sonic's nuts, so go nuts. Yeah, and because the times when they do go nuts, you can't help but be like, this is pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And there was a lot of that in this movie. There was a lot of that kind of stuff in this movie. We're looking at like, this is really cool. Like, Idris Elba's Knuckles was pretty funny. Like,
it was pretty funny.
The whole thing with the stairs. He's shooting all those things at him, and there's stairs.
There was good. There's a lot of good stuff, but like, legit, man, the way that you felt when Cap starts throwing the hammer at Thanos and like uses it as a bat to hit the shield into that, like that reaction that you had that you're picturing in your mind right now when he yells Avengers Assemble and Chris Hemsworth is next to go, rah! Like he fucking screams. That is how they felt watching this movie. And I was just so pleased that the video game movies that they've seen, while not entirely authentic to the source material like Sonic, Sonic 2, and Detective Pikachu, they are not the Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, which is pretty wild.
They've gotten pretty decent, good-looking representations of characters that they well and truly love. And that was awesome. It was awesome.
See, now, here's what I want to know. You're comparing it to the Cap moment.
Yeah, for them. Yeah.
I feel like, and this is just my guess, that if I had to guess for them, this was more in line with the way I felt when I saw Wolverine kill those dudes in X-Men 2. When they invade the soldiers start coming into the mansion.
Yeah.
And he stabs the guy in the foot. It was the coolest thing in the world at that point in time.
Yeah, like when Colossus pops up and he's like, not yet, wait for the sequel.
Wait
that
for the
moment.
Sequel. Yeah, that whole situation there, when you get to see Wolverine taking all those guys out. That's what I imagine, because the difference between that scene and the Cap scene is that the Cap scene came off of, that was unlike anything else before it, because that came off of like 10 years of good movies. Yeah,
of build-up and anticipation and all of that. And
so
I gotta tell you,
Sonic 2, this is like, okay, this is a lifetime of me imagining this, and because that's how I felt seeing that in X-Men 2, and like, I knew in my heart of hearts that X-Men 2 wasn't perfect. There was always going to be things that weren't that, but like, I grew up with the action figures and then the cartoon, and I've always imagined that. What would this actually be like if Wolverine used his claws on people?
It would be so cool.
It would be so cool. That's what I'm imagining, and I lost my freaking mind in the theater. But if it, and this is just as somebody not there, based on what you've told me, I imagine that is what they were feeling like when they saw that. More similar to that, as opposed to 10 years of good movies leading up to this completely insane, unprecedented thing.
Their reaction was so... Now, keep in mind, my kids are fucking insane. They're crazy people that are so deep into these things. Like, when they get into something, like, they are so in the woods as far as like lore and creating their own universes and all of this stuff, that the build up for them was as strong as the build up to Cap swinging the hammer. And which is wild. I don't know how they can continue to sustain that for the rest of their lives. I was like, all right, girls, you maybe need to pull it back a little bit. You gotta like,
I get it. I get
but
that.
Like,
that's...
oh my God, they were, and it was just great. It was just great to see. It really, at the end of the day, fills me with a lot of hope that we are moving in a direction to where some of these properties can be taken seriously in a way that they never have been before. Because I think that's one of the things that the Sonic movies do well, and Detective Pikachu, I thought, did it really well.
Yeah, that was really good too.
It
Detective
took it
Pikachu
seriously.
Yeah,
it wasn't a joke. This wasn't, we're just slapping something together and look, here's Sonic running around. Like, they responded to criticism, they listened, they treated it as a serious property. And I
agree with
that.
You to an extent. I feel like there's still the intrinsic, well, we have to change what this is. We can't just make a Sonic movie. We have to change what it is. It has to be about humans in the real world so that people have something to relate to. It can't just be about Sonic. And that's why I'm equating this to X-Men, because that's... X-Men was where comic book movies started to take that 90-degree turn, right? Because we had Batman was the fluke, Superman before that, but no superhero movie could ever get to like number 3 without completely crapping its pants.
Sure.
The same thing happened to X-Men, but once X-Men hit, it was like, okay, we're starting to figure out how to make comic book movies comic booky, right? And they still had to change a bunch of stuff, like they made all their outfits black and things a bit more edgy and
terrible.
Changed a bunch of rules and things within the X-Men universe, but at the same time, they kind of made that happen. And I feel like that's what Sonic is doing for the idea of video game movies.
I hope so.
Whereas, because
I hope so.
X-Men started that train, and then Spider-Man took it home.
Right.
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man hits, and then all of a sudden, okay, this is how you do it, because it became a mega hit. And then, that eventually led to the MCU after, a phenomenal sequel and then a not phenomenal sequel, and other studios trying shit Spider-Man left and right.
3. I do. It's whatever. It's not great, but
no matter how you slice it, it's no Spider-Man 2.
It is the most Sam Raimi of all of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and
which is
really
funny because it's
that.
the one that he had the least control over.
Yeah, I know, which is odd, but I really like the Sam Raimi-ness of it. It's just so wild and weird and goofy.
I do like a lot of things about that movie. There's just it just doesn't work overall. But
don't
you see
like
what I'm
Topher
saying?
Grace's Venom. For sure, yeah,
that's the biggest problem in that movie. But that's a podcast from the podcast.
Yeah,
that the Venom stuff was the problem. If it was just Sandman and that was kind of like the movie that he wanted to make, if it was just doing that,
so good.
That would have been a hell of a movie.
So good.
But
Thomas Hayden
what I'm kind of dovetailing into is that like there's so much pressure on this upcoming Mario movie, which just got delayed. Which is, I guess, not a terrible surprise, but I hope they're taking it seriously enough that Super Mario is going to be Spider-Man to
I hope so.
Sonic's X-Men. Because if we can turn that corner, because like you just said about the Uncharted movie, it's great, but it's not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can look at this movie and say, this is crap, but at least it's fun. And that's fine. But
yeah, I feel very similarly to that movie as I feel to most of the Indiana Jones movies. Like, these are great. They're not good.
Yeah.
But
1 and 3
are great.
1 and 3 are legitimately great. 2 and 4, they're fun. But
yeah, I love them. I love them to pieces.
But they're not great.
They're not good. But I love
Raiders and Last Crusade, genuinely amazing movies. But yeah, that's kind of that's where I'm at with these Sonic movies. I appreciate when it's happening, and I also appreciate that with this sequel, it seems that in putting it together, factions must have realized this is the stuff that works and this is the stuff that doesn't. And I'm hoping that someday, if video game movies start turning this corner to being like, well, let's just make good movies. Let's stop not trusting the source material. Let's do, and that I think is one of the best things that the MCU did. What made it work in this interconnected way was that even though they changed a lot of stuff to make things work in live action, et cetera, they ultimately trusted the source material.
Right.
Because they're telling these stories like comic books.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping that we get to with this Mario movie. If it's complete and utter garbage, which there's a pretty solid chance it will be. This is
I'm pretty convinced
Studios.
It's going to be.
But at the same time, this movie being delayed doesn't strike me as. Here's what strikes me as different about this movie being delayed is it was Miyamoto who announced it, which kind of sounds to me like Miyamoto doing his upending the tea table thing. It's like, nope, this isn't working. Start again.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
That's kind of what I feel like. That's kind of like what I feel is happening here because I know that
would Illumination give Miyamoto that much control? Like, that doesn't seem likely.
I imagine that that's the only way this movie is happening. the only way Nintendo agreed to make this movie was if they were allowed this level of control. That's my guess. Because they've been reluctant to do this for so long
because crazy for that kind of shit.
Of the Super Mario Brothers movie and the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. They've been so careful about this stuff for so long, and probably like Illumination Studios, of all studios, to be like, this is the studio that's going to be the one that we're going to work with to make this the movie we want it to be. And everyone's sitting there like, really? Like, I can't believe Disney didn't scoop this up, or some other big studio. And the only thing that makes sense to me is that Illumination was the only one that was willing to agree to Nintendo's terms. That's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, but I can see that. I hope you're right. Because I don't even think, like, legitimately, I don't think a Mario movie that is true to the source material can have the impact that Spider-Man had.
Exactly.
I don't know that it can't, but I don't think that it would. I think you would be much better with A Legend of Zelda. I think could have that impact.
It could, but if I'm thinking about just brand recognition, like, Spider-Man's the Marvel character, you know?
Right.
Mario
for better
is
or worse, yeah.
For better or worse, Mario is the video game character. And if the spirit is there, that's the important thing. You know, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was different in a lot of ways, too. Like, the rash of shit that came out with the organic web shooters, like...
Yeah.
But the spirit was there.
Which is ridiculous because it makes sense, but whatever.
Except it's not coming out of his butt, but whatever.
Well, sure. Sure. So, like, do those webs come, like, do they shoot out anywhere else? No, just here. Oh.
God, that movie's cool. Great.
Oh, that movie's wonderful.
Really good. But that's how I feel about this whole movie thing. And the thing that I am at, and the reason I made that comparison with the way your daughters were reacting is like, because I identify with that. That was how I was with my fandoms when I was a kid. I lived that world. Like, that was all everything, all consuming.
Yeah.
Now imagine if the movie was genuinely good. How different the reaction would be. From somebody looking at me, I bet they wouldn't have been able to tell the difference from me losing my freaking mind in the theater the first time I saw Wolverine doing that stuff, and the whole bit with Cap and the hammer and whatnot at the end of Endgame. But just knowing the way that I experienced fandoms and the way you've explained your daughter's experiencing fandoms, like, Imagine if Sonic 2 was really genuinely a good movie.
Yeah.
Like,
but also keep in mind they're 12.
That is also true.
They don't know what a genuinely good movie is yet.
That is true.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not mid-30s, early 40s watching this stuff being like, I have a whole breadth of experience to draw upon, and I can compare this to Marcus Truffaut and you know, like, all that kind of shit. They're 12 and that shit was dope. Whereas even when the X-Men came out, when X-Men came out, we were already a little older. You know, when X-Men 2 came out, we were 18, 19, 20, something like that.
Yeah, when was the first X-Men movie? Because God, that one. That whole movie that was just like nuts to me.
I fucking hated that movie. I still hate that movie. I hated it when I saw it. I hated the second one after Nightcrawler. I fucking hate those movies.
I know you do.
Oh my god!
That first X-Men movie was like, I was in 2000, so.
Oh, so we were 20. Yeah. So even then, but even at 20, like, we had, at that point, we had already gone through our dickhead phase of, like, I'm gonna watch films, not movies. Piss off with your movie. I'm not interested. You know what I mean? Like, we had already gotten to that point. So when you look at, like, a 12-year-old's experience, they're going from, you know, and we've seen some things that are better films. You know, like I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey with Katie.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a couple weeks ago. But she didn't get it because she's 12.
And they get just getting to see that, like having grown up with Sonic and then getting to see that last boss and that giant Robotnik robot.
So cool.
And like even John thought that was the coolest thing, and we don't play Sonic games all that much. He's not super into Sonic. He thinks Sonic is super awesome, but we've read like a bunch of the comics, but not all of them. You know, it never hit that like complete obsession stage of like when we were playing the Zelda games, and it was like that was all consuming. Or right now with Minecraft is all consuming. And
and then there's going to be Jason Momoa. I don't even know what's going to happen with Jason Momoa in a Minecraft movie. What is a Minecraft movie?
I don't know.
Is it animated?
I still don't
pixelated?
I still don't get Minecraft. I just don't. I don't get it.
And that's okay. It's not for you. I'm curious. And like what you were saying earlier with like starting to take it seriously, like I will say, going back to our casting couch episode that we did 2 years ago, whatever, I retroactively would like to take out Nikolaj Coster-Waldau as Solid and Liquid, and after his performance in Moon Knight, I am all on board Oscar Isaac as fucking Solid and Liquid Snake. Oh my god, that would be, dude.
That last episode was something, wasn't it?
He's the guy to do it.
What is that thing I kept seeing online? Wow, Oscar Isaac and Oscar Isaac have really great chemistry.
They really do. I didn't think he was that good of an actor. I don't like Poe Dameron that much. He's fine. You know what I mean? But I didn't see anything he did as Poe Dameron and be like, oh my, I saw that fucking X-Men movie where he was Apocalypse.
Oh god, that was him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I still haven't seen that movie.
Oh my god!
I haven't brought myself to do it.
Don't. It's got Olivia Munn in the Psylocke costume. I know. And I was like, I'm out. She jumped down once, and then I think I fell asleep after it. I was like, yeah, that's about as good as this is getting.
Yeah, I haven't been able to bring myself to do that one. I watched the Dark Phoenix one though. That was terrible. God,
that one's bad too.
That was terrible.
That one's real bad.
Really, really bad.
Tiff genuinely likes the Days of Future Past.
That was all right.
I don't like it. I have liked, I think,
all right,
one
as
X-Men
far as
movie.
I'm going to go on that, and I didn't even you have to understand the circumstances of which I saw Days of Future Past. Somebody told us that you want to go see a movie when you have a baby, go to a drive-in. The baby will fall asleep in the car on the way, and then sleep through a movie, and you get to see a movie. Except John woke up the minute we got into park.
Ooh, that sucks.
It was just me and Karen taking turns stepping outside of the car and trying to rock John back to sleep. So I've seen most of Days of Future Past in some capacity, and it was all right. That's as far as I'm going, though.
It was okay.
It was okay. It wasn't the worst thing I ever saw. First Class was pretty decent
right now to make sure that he is in that X-Men movie. I thought it was him. I could be wrong. He is En Sabanor.
God, that was him?
Yeah.
He must have been so young.
Yeah, that movie was 2016, so I mean, we're talking 6 years ago, and he's not an old man. Like he's not. A year older than me. So he's 42 right now, so he was 36.
Wow, I had no idea that was him. That's such a bummer, because he's so good, and clearly he must have been early, and it must have been early enough in his career where it's like the George Clooney Batman thing. Right?
Yeah.
This guy clearly
George
likes...
Clooney is a great actor.
Yeah.
What was that shit?
I mean, you know exactly what that was. He even said it. He even said it in interviews. Somebody said, "Do you want to be Batman?" He was like, "Yes,
of course I do." You fucking serious?
And
that wasn't a serious question, was it?
I assume that's what happened with. I mean, Oscar Isaac was nowhere near anywhere in his career the same way George Clooney was when Batman and Robin happened. He didn't have years of ER under his belt or whatever.
No, sure.
I'm sure somebody was like, "You want to be Apocalypse in this X-Men movie?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay."
I don't know who the fuck that is, but yes.
I feel confident that Oscar Isaac knew who Apocalypse was.
But give me Oscar Isaac in a fucking Metal Gear Solid movie. I'm super on board that idea.
Yeah, Moon Knight's been great.
Oh my god, it's so good.
I can't wait to talk to Evan about it.
Tiff,
the show or the character?
The character. She thinks he is just the biggest piece of shit. Like, and mostly it's to be a contrarian, because she's like, he's just Batman, and I'm like, honey, no, he's fucking not. It's this and that, and she goes, shut the fuck up, he's Batman. Like, she just does it more to be a dick to me. But like, I think she likes this show more than I do, which is saying something, because I am super duper into this show. It's
really making me happy. Every time I watch it, I just get this big dumb smile on my face, like,
oh, it's just so good.
This is so much fun. This is so interesting. And
putting in work, man.
Yeah, that last episode was really something.
Dude,
I can't wait for the finale, because we're delaying this week's episode for a week so that we can talk about Moon Knight as the central topic.
Nice.
So the last episode's this week, and then I'm very curious where it's gonna end, because each episode has done so much. Like,
and this one is apparently the shortest episode,
which is crazy.
But
you compare this to something.
There's a lot to wrap up. You still got a lot to do here, guys.
But this is what irks me. You compare something like this to Book of Boba Fett, and like, they're doing so much with these episodes.
Yeah, and Book of Boba Fett did nothing.
And I love that show, but I very much recognize
an hour and a half at best.
I recognize its faults, of which there are many. And you look at this coming out of the same, house. This is all coming out of Disney, and
yeah,
the amount that they're doing with this. And I mean, think about how crazy good all these Marvel TV shows have been. Like,
there hasn't been a stinker in the bunch.
There hasn't, and how just even with WandaVision was such a risky move to start it the way that they did, and absolutely nuts. Yeah, totally brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant, and they've all been so different.
Yeah,
at equal quality among such vastly different story avenues is fascinating.
Quite.
Like, just crazy. Anyway,
and Doctor Strange is this Friday. Yeah, all right.
So
back. Let's
excited.
Let's get
went
back
into
on
a whole thing.
Here.
It did start on video games though, with the video
with the Sonic movie, yeah, and then
I mean, so Uncharted. I think you should see it. I think it was a lot of fun. And Tiff, who is the biggest Uncharted fan I know, watches me play the games like a movie, and she thought it was great. So if it hits Tiff's seal of approval, like, this is good shit. Let's see. Other than that, video games. What have I been playing? The show, Pad, a bunch of Saturn shit for later in the show. Because Saturn is not a system I'm all that versed in. But I'm pretty happy with my list. I think I've got. I mean, it's a very me list, but you'll see when we get there. And then some more of that Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, man. That is such a cool little game. I feel like it would be better suited on a Nintendo platform. I just feel like it would have more of an audience there. But man, just a really, really solid game. It feels very, very Legend of Zelda to me, in a lot of the way that just the story is being told, some of the mechanics that are in use in the game. It feels of that, like there was definitely an influence there, right? And not in the way that, where like Death's Door was very much influenced by like top-down, Link to the Past and that sort of thing. This game feels very influenced by Majora's Mask and the 3D Zeldas. But it's really, really good. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. And I feel like it's a game that once this studio, like, now that they have this experience under their belt, the next game that they make is going to be the one where everybody's like, holy shit, these guys are fucking great. Yeah, really, really awesome. Sorry, we're already 42 minutes into it, so I'm going to shut up now. You don't even play video games. What are you doing here?
Talk about comic book movies.
Yeah, no, Wii Sports. Tell me about it. Did you break your TV yet? Because apparently that's back.
Apparently that's back. I am kind of afraid watching my kids play it because I didn't have kids when Wii Sports came out, and we do the bowling. We do the bowling in Wii Sports, and that it's never really seemed like much of a risk. But boy, they're swinging those Joy-Cons around pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to happen. Like, if you tell yourself it's probably going to happen, you'll be pleasantly surprised if it doesn't.
Yeah, so we added the wrist straps, and it's been fine because the wrist straps are very easily detachable on the Joy-Cons, as opposed to like you do the whole Wii Remote condom thing, and the wrist straps you have to like actually get tied on. That's like it was always just too much of a pain in the ass. These ones are those little detachable things. You just like snap them on, and you're good to go. So okay, this is great. All right, so Switch Sports. It is. It's great. It's a lot of fun. It is definitely strikingly unambitious in a lot of ways.
Aww.
Which is, kind of disappointing. It is. It's Mega Man 11.
Okay.
Because it is not. You think about, like, remember we were talking about Mega Man 11? We're like, well, Mega Man 8 was an evolution of Mega Man, not necessarily a great one, where that's where this analogy kind of differs a bit, but it was a big evolution, but then the next Mega Man game was all the way back to the beginning. Yeah. And that's what happened with Wii Sports, right? We got Wii Sports, yay! Then we got Wii Sports Resort, and that game was super ambitious. There was a ton of stuff to do in that game. There was single-player stuff, lots of multiplayer stuff. The whole Woohoo Island, which spanned several different games with Wii Fit and Pilot Wings Resort. Like, Wii Sports Resort was ambitious. Yeah. But then the next Wii Sports game was Wii Sports Club on the Switch, which was remarkably unambitious. It was basically
I forgot about that completely.
It was basically an HD remake of Wii Sports. It went back down to just the original sports that were in Wii Sports, but they added on semi-decent online play, some interesting gamepad support, but that was it. And boxing was even worse. And it wasn't even all that great on the Wii Sports one, but boy, that doesn't work. So if this is a follow-up to Wii Sports Club, it's a huge improvement, a massive improvement, but it still doesn't get anywhere near the ambition of Wii Sports Resort, at least not yet. Right. Because we know there's more stuff coming. We know that they're going to be adding the more leg strap support to soccer in a couple of weeks, and then we know that golf is coming in the fall. Now, if that continues to happen, if they keep updating this game over time, then this could be really awesome, because the Spoko Square as a place is really cool looking. It's very alive in a similar way that Wii Sports Resort felt, as in there's always just characters walking around in the background. A lot of people are pissed off about the lack of Miis all over the place, and like, you can choose your Miis if you want to, but I kind of like, I guess I've always been in a bit of the minority that I've never thought Miis were that great.
I don't get it.
They're cool, I guess, but I didn't really miss them when they were gone. And like, to a degree I did, like the idea of making Miis when we finally, put the Wii U upstairs and we were making Miis for Ellie and stuff. Like, that part of it was really fun, but at the same token, these new characters, these sports mates that are in this game, they just have a personality to them that Mii's only had if you made that personality. And I hate the Mii characters in Smash Brothers because I just don't think they're so very specific, and they always looked kind of cheap. And when they did Miitopia on Switch and they completely blew the gates off of what you could do with Mii's, that was interesting again. But
Katie's super into that Miitopia game. She loves it.
But it's just for that one game. You can't do that for, like, your system level Mii, You can't go so completely insanely detailed. on anything else but just specifically in Miitopia. So it just kind of lost all that for me again. But so the personality of this game, I think, is pretty great. The online play is pretty fun. It has almost nothing to do single player, except for jump online and play online matches with random strangers, which can be pretty fun.
Sure.
Which is also the only way that you can unlock new outfits and stuff, is by going online and playing with strangers. So there's no way to unlock that stuff unless you go online. And that's kind of bothersome. The only thing we haven't played is the kicking in soccer, where you add the leg strap. We've done all the other events. The kids love tennis. Tennis works. Tennis feels just as fun as it did back on Wii Sports, which is great. And same with the bowling. My exact trick in Wii Sports bowling doesn't work the same. Like, the physics are ever so slightly different, so I had to come up with a new method, but I feel like I got it down pat on how to get close to a strike most of the time.
All right.
It's completely missing 100 pin bowling, which was in Wii Sports Club, and it was one of our favorite things to do. It's just not there. It could be added in the future, which would be great, but right now it's not there, and that's a huge bummer. But the obstacle bowling that they have is really cool. It's like these weird, just like, all right, here's the bowling, here's your lane, except it's got like hills and like a bridge, and you got to bowl your way across. Like, there's a big spot in the middle, so in order to get the strike or whatever, you have to curve your ball around this to then hit the pins. It's really creative. We did the easy level so far. I haven't tried any of the other ones yet, but that's cool. Been great. Badminton's a good time. It's weird that you can't play doubles in badminton.
That's a little weird.
It's a little weird. Same with the soccer. Soccer's nuts because soccer's Rocket League.
It's
like, it's basically Rocket League. It's vaguely soccer. it's Rocket League on
soccer,
foot.
Jace.
Yeah, it's the same. Like, the camera works the same way. Like, it's always centered on the ball, and like, you move your character around. Unlike in tennis, like, you just use the analog stick to move your character, and you swing the other remote to the other Joy-Con to kick the ball in different ways. But the only way to play it more than one-on-one is either with bots, like, one person on each team, and bots fill everything else in, or to play online. And it's super bothersome that we can't just do some sort of split screen with four of us playing soccer. Same thing with volleyball. Splits things up weird because it goes split screen for every character in volleyball, which is super weird to me because, like, they don't do that in tennis. Like, each team gets a screen, and volleyball courts are the same size. So why are we splitting this up into 4 screens? It just makes it look more confusing and harder to see everything on the screen. It's such a weird move. But the volleyball is really fun. It's actually really, really good. Works out better than I thought it would. I wish there was more variety. There's going to be more variety in the future, especially if it's a success. I had heard somebody said on I was listening to the IGN podcast in the car. I had to drive out and drop off Karen's computer AC power supply. She forgot at home. So I was listening to the IGN Nintendo Voicecast podcast, and that one of the people on there, I can't remember who, said something that was absolutely brilliant, and I certainly hope Nintendo does it, is that this game should be a bundle this holiday season. Oh,
for sure.
Because, like, right now, selling it on its own for $40 is like, I'm sure it's going to do well. But man, if they get this on all the same talk shows and stuff that they did for, like, Wii Sports back when it came out, and then bundle it this Christmas, it'll take off. Because I feel like the time's right, because nobody played Wii Sports Club. Tons of people played Resort, but, like, the original one was massive. Resort was slightly less massive, but still massive. And then
Club
nobody played
nowhere.
Club. Nobody even knew Club existed because it was on the Wii U. But this is the Switch that everybody has and that lots of people still want. And could go really well. I just really want them to keep adding more content, because I get scared when I look at like Clubhouse games, which I love. Clubhouse games, it's great, but it could have used a little bit more support. Like it could have used like, let's add a few more 4-player games, because there's almost no 4-player support. Let's modernize some of the account stuff. Like, let's let everyone sign in with their own accounts instead of just one player and then everyone else is guest. Like,
which is weird.
Your other games don't do that. Like Big Brain Academy, everybody can sign in. Switch Sports, everybody can sign in. What the heck? But
yeah, it's weird.
It's weird.
It's weird the way I said weird.
It's weird.
It's weird. It's weird. I'm going to stop right there. I don't know what that was. I haven't even been drinking that much.
All right. I started Four Swords Adventures. Had my friends over. We started Four Swords Adventures. It's just as good as I remember.
All right, then.
It was...
that game's fucking dope.
It's playing it with a... Because they didn't really understand what I was asking them to do when I said, come over and play this weird Zelda game. We can only play this way. And they're like, okay, so... Wait, what? I plug everything in. I gave each of them a Game Boy, and they're like, what? It's like, okay, so yes, this is a Game Boy, but you all have this screen. It's like, well, which screen do I look at? The game's going to tell you which screen to look at. Yeah. It's going to change all the time. Like, this seems confusing. Trust me, it's going to make sense. So we start playing. Few minutes in, we start falling into our individual roles of who's the pain in the ass. Oh, we can pick each other up and throw each other? This is going to be a good time.
This is going to be a blast for fucking everybody.
I forgot about the voting in between rounds. Every time you beat a stage, you get to vote on who was the most helpful and who was the biggest pain in the ass.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I haven't played that in so long.
It's really good. In this specific instance where all 4 people have their own controller with a screen on it, and, this could work so well online.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest way to fix this problem, because, like, my one friend, Kat, had my one regular Game Boy Advance, not the SP, so hers didn't have a backlight. She's like, I can't see my screen.
Yeah.
All you have to do is make this game online. Just do this.
That's it.
Remaster it online with voice chat through the freaking app. I don't care how you do it. As long as everybody can talk to each other while the game's being played and everybody has their own screen, this game was built for it. Yes, it's always going to be better in the same room.
Of course.
To an extent. But online's just ever so slightly below it, and this could be great. I can't believe they haven't done that. We finished Kirby today. Like, actually finished Kirby. I thought we finished it the other day, but no, there was a final boss. Really hard. We barely beat him by using every cheat we could come up with. Like, John playing it with me is kind of like cheating, because he's basically invincible. He can get killed, but he can get killed as many times as he wants with no penalty. All he has to do is, after he dies, he has to mash the button a whole bunch till a bar fills up, and then he can come back.
And so he's a kid, so he can mash a button.
He's dealing extra damage while I'm dodging all these crazy-ass attacks. We scanned Amiibo. We're like, all right, this one gives us a second life bar. This one gives us some little extra health boost, and this gives us an attack boost. Like, this will give us a healing move. Like, we did everything we could on the last shot through this. And that last boss is hard.
That last boss is a dick.
The last boss, because, like, we beat the game, and that was cool, but then there was the post-game, and that was also really cool. We beat that boss, but then after that, there was, like, another special secret boss, which was Morpho Knight. We beat Morpho Knight, and then we got the Morpho Knight sword ability, and I was like, all right, we did it. We finished it. And then John was listening to the playlist. He's like, well, what's this song go to? I'm like, oh, that sounds like boss music. So I looked it up online, and it's like, oh, because after you beat the game, it unlocked another thing you could do in the Coliseum stages, which is like these little battle arena things. I just figured it was a fun little bonus mode, but no, that's where the actual last boss of the game is, and you beat that, and then it's over. I still have to 100% complete it. I might not, like I said I was going to, and it still sounds like fun, but I'm
Yeah.
I've spent so much time on this. My copy of Chrono Cross is going to show up in the mail anytime. Like, I know that I don't necessarily get anything else out of 100% completing it than more of these little figures, which are adorable, but I did all the story and I feel really good about it, and I'll go back and try to 100% it. Like, when I try to play this game again someday, I can just pick up my old save file and go from there, because then I'm playing all the stages again, except I'm getting credit for 100% completing them this time around, which will be great. The little figurines you collect are kind of like the trophies in Smash Brothers, except when you look at them, when you look at them, it cracks me up every time. So, like, in Smash Brothers, the older Smash Brothers game, you can press a button and you can rotate the camera around, right? Seeing the trophies, which are basically little minifigures of something in the game. So they have those in this game, except when you look at them, it's not just in some abstract background. They're on a table. And when you turn the camera around to look at it from different angles, Kirby is looking at them. But they're mini figures, so Kirby's gigantic.
Just a massive Kirby.
It is massive Kirby with a big dumb smile on his face. He's so happy to be looking at these figures, and it's just he's crowding around the table with his big eyes and silly little smile, looking at these figures. And every now and then he opens his mouth like, ah.
Oh, look at this shit!
It's so freaking silly. I love it. It makes me laugh so hard. Let's see. I also spent a little bit more time with the Atari. I was connected with.
Shit! I forgot you got that.
I was connected with somebody who is helping me figure out how to do what I wanted to do with the system.
Right.
I actually guested on the SNES podcast the other day, where I got to. It was late, which is why I wasn't going to do it, and then I realized how late it was. I was like, wait a minute. This won't take away time from anybody. This will just cost me sleep. And Ferg's going to be there.
And fuck sleep.
Ferg's going to be there, and we're talking about Zelda Link to the Past. I think I have to do this. So I got on there.
Don't ever ask me, by the way, guys. I have noticed. Just putting that out there.
You're not in the Discord. There's the Super NES Podcast Discord. If you were there, I'm sure he would have asked you. Would have loved to have you. Mm-hmm. But also,
typical.
When I signed in, Phil, the No Swear Gamer, was on there, and I love that guy's YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and that was really cool. I never got to talk to him before, and so I got to meet Phil and the No Swear Gamer. It was fun, and we talked about Zelda for the whole evening. And then I mentioned the whole VCS thing. It came up in conversation during the podcast, and Phil mentioned that he connected me with a guy on Twitter that knows how to do what I am trying to do. So hopefully that'll work out, but it's going to take some doing and some learning on my behalf, and hopefully some help from other people too, because I don't know that I trust myself to do this right, but it does seem possible to do what I want. But earlier today, I wanted to try out a few things, and I broke down and I said, I really have to try this. I bought Breakout Recharged, which I liked Missile Command Recharged. It was fine. I wound up loving Centipede Recharged. If you remember when I did that, I started reviewing and I was like, it's fine. And then by the time I was done with it, I did all the challenge and I was like, oh, this is actually great. Breakout Recharged is great. I'm having some troubles with the joystick. I have issues with its dead zone in the middle. The amount you have to move it before it starts registering movement is kind of bothersome. And the twistiness of the joystick itself isn't as smooth as on the old Atari 2600 paddles. It's a little sticky. It takes a little bit too much resistance to start. And because the stick itself is so much thinner than a paddle, you have to rotate it more. You have to rotate it. It feels like you're rotating it more to get it to go as far as you want it to.
Yeah.
That said, this is definitely the best way to play Breakout Recharged as far as I'm concerned, because it still beats moving back and forth with an analog stick for a Breakout style game by a large margin.
Sure.
And it's got the same challenge mode as Centipede did. So it's it's really fun. It's really good. I was playing it for a little while earlier today. It was $10. I probably could have waited for a sale, but I'm trying to put together I'm trying to put together a video about the VCS for next week, so I wanted to have something else to talk about on the video of like, what are the games actually like on it? The store is so limited. It's so weird. I assume that this thing is kind of dead because I don't know who else is going to be selling it at this point, because I know like CompUSA or whatever, most places have stopped carrying this thing. Like, in GameStop was kind of the
Is that still a thing?
I don't know, maybe. There was Micro Center. That's the one. I think Micro Center. That's what I'm thinking of.
Back at because Service Merchandise isn't carrying it anymore. Caldor and Jamesway have stopped their support. Clover still has a few. You might be able to sneak into a Best and find it, but fucking CompUSA, Jesus. They're also selling them at Builders Square, surprisingly enough, which is very strange.
That is strange. Jamesway, Bradley's, good times. All right. I
was a Clover guy. Loved Clover.
Oh, I loved Clover too. I used to get a lot of Atari games from Clover, especially when they had them closed out.
Little food court.
Good times.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Fuck
the Atari
Walmart,
VCS is a weird ass system.
Where we just got to real quick. Anyway, sorry.
And then there was, I think, the last piece of anything we should talk about before getting to our main thing here is that Square Enix sale.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's not enough money. It doesn't feel like.
This seems like a pretty small amount of money for brands like Tomb Raider, but
yeah, it feels like Sony, Nintendo, or Microsoft could have stepped in there.
Apparently, this company's bought a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I was looking at some stuff that they did. It's like
Kotaku put out a piece earlier today.
Yeah.
It was like, these guys have actually been doing this a bunch. Like, don't they own Borderlands now?
Yeah, they
That's
paid a
wild.
lot for like $1 billion though for Borderlands.
Clearly, I don't know why Square Enix bought these companies to begin with, because clearly they didn't know what to do with them after a certain point. Like, those Tomb Raider games were pretty well respected, right? They're great.
They were great.
But then there's all the other Eidos properties that they've done fuck all with for ages.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a new Legacy of Kain.
Maybe we will, because it seems to me that if you can't make, like, if you're willing to sell all these properties for $300 million, if you can't
care,
if you can't make that kind of money off the Tomb Raider brand,
yeah,
then, to paraphrase Sports Night, you should get out of the money making business.
You should indeed.
And it just seems to me that Square Enix is taking that very Japanese approach of like, nah, fuck Western studios.
Yeah,
we're just gonna do our Kingdom Hearts nonsense for now. Oh, and speaking of Square Enix, the other shoe that dropped was Yuji Naka taking to Twitter, being like,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Yuji Naka came out. Apparently, he had a lawsuit going on with Square because of the whole Balan Wonderworld thing. It was like, I got fired off of this project. These guys are a bunch of buttheads. They released the game unfinished. There was still a lot of work to do, clearly, and I wanted to do that work, but I wasn't allowed to talk about things. And I'm sure the problems are somewhere in the middle.
Of course.
He brings up this whole thing that struck me as weird, and this was also brought up on the IGN podcast I was listening to, but I had the same thought where he goes on and on, like, comparing certain things to, like, his time on Sonic, and he was like, yeah, that whole bit with the ring, what you can't die in Sonic if you have at least one ring. That was added really late in development. And I'm like, yeah, but that's Sonic on the Genesis. That was a long time ago. Adding one thing to a game like that late in development is kind of different from adding one thing late in development in a massive 3D game on these crazy supercomputers. Like,
one would assume.
Yeah, one would assume. Like, yeah, doing something like that could break a whole lot of shit, but when you're talking about in a 3D environment like this, games I feel are a lot more breakable now. Like, there's so many more rules going on that one little thing could just be like, all right, we made that work, but everything's plaid now.
Whatever. It is what it is. It's going out like this.
I didn't think, we remember when this game was announced, I didn't think this looked very good to begin with, so I don't know how much more time he could have put into it that could have possibly saved it, and I feel like he hasn't had a hit in quite a long time. Like, I love Knights, but that ain't a mainstream success.
Nope.
And there's not a lot of game there.
Nope.
And the sequel to Knights was pretty problematic. It had some really high points, but it had some pretty low points too. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like...
it's weird, man. It's weird.
What else has Yuji Naka done? The Sonic Team stuff, Phantasy Star and Phantasy Star 2, then Sonic 1, 2, and 3, and Knuckles, then Knights.
I feel like if Sony had purchased this, I feel like we'd all be kind of excited. Like, all right, fuck yeah.
The Eidos purchase? Yeah. Going back to that.
That'll be pretty sweet, you know? Yeah, I'm just trying to fill time while you're searching. It just seems kind of shitty that, like, there's this big mega corporation swallowing up all of these studios. I don't know. It feels like it's heading in an even further gross direction that I don't want it to.
Yeah, you know? No, I completely agree. I don't like... if Square was going to let go of these studios...
For like $7 too, like...
It's so weird that it went for so little. Not that that's like a small amount of money, but it seems like these are much bigger brands, which
comparatively speaking, it is a fraction of an amount.
It just kind of makes it seem like, well, yeah, this is clearly how much respect they had for these studios at this point. This is what this is worth to them. Like,
yeah,
I kind of feel like this should have been worth a lot more. And
yeah, that I think is the thing ultimately that I was the most surprised by, is that because it was what, 30 million, 30 or 300. Either way, not enough. I feel
like it was 300 million. Square is selling. Let's see, what were the studios that actually the studios? Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, and Legacy of Kain. And it was 300 million.
Yeah, that
those were including those four, like just those things.
Right, we're not talking about like Fighting Force and fucking Gex and shit.
Yeah, just those four properties alone.
Just Tomb Raider feels like a $300 million purchase. If you own that IP, they've made movies. Like,
yeah,
it's a legacy franchise at this point. It strikes me as very odd, I think, that Sony didn't say like, well, we'll give you 302. You know what I mean? Like that, or Microsoft didn't jump in there. Like, that just seems very, very strange.
I didn't realize IO Interactive had split from Square. They're the ones who did Hitman. That's interesting.
Yeah. But Hitman is still owned by that too?
No, Hitman was its own thing. I'm reading this article from The Verge, and says Square Enix originally began its move into Western game development in 2009 with its acquisition of Eidos Interactive, during which time it oversaw new Hitman, Tomb Raider, and Deus Ex releases, along with the expansion into original Marvel games. In 2017, Hitman developer IO Interactive split from Square Enix to become an independent studio. That's pretty interesting. And this Embracer company is acquiring Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal.
That's probably going to get a name change.
Yeah, probably. And this company, let's see, they picked up Gearbox, Saber Interactive, and THQ Nordic.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
The thing that I put on the Discord that I think probably has something to do with it, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine, is the debt that they would have to assume from some of this as well. Because that Avengers game did not do what they wanted it to do.
No, it most certainly did not.
And it probably would now if the game that is available now was the game that was released. Because they have fixed a lot of the problems, and what's there is really fun. But when you buy a superhero game and you start off not being able to do any of the superhero shit, and you have to like work your way up to getting cool moves and combos, like, that's not fun. It's not why I bought this. It's not what I'm interested in. You know, and then the whole, like, it's not story driven. Like, there were a lot of problems with that game that ultimately have been fixed is probably too strong a word, but have been massaged into into a better overall product. You know, and a lot of the DLC stuff has come out that they announced was going to be coming. But like, games as a service is some bullshit, and I hate that. You know, and I don't know. That Guardians game was dope. That game was super fun. I'm excited for what else they do with the teams that they have working on that. But at the same time, you know, you've got Sony out here chucking Spider-Man games out, and now a Wolverine game is coming out. So, you know, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
It is weird.
I hope the new Tomb Raider game is fucking great. I really do. Those games are awesome.
I hope they revitalize Legacy of Kain.
That's right.
I would very much like to see Raziel out in the world game. Because Raziel is a great character.
Yeah.
Kane's fine.
Agreed. Kane's a dick, but...
All right. It is time to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do our Stone Age starter kit for the Sega Saturn, which is going to be interesting. You are listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from Geekade.com. Stick around. And now, here's a quick look at some of the other original content available now from our partners and Geekade.com.
First up, you probably know by now that Kris got himself an Atari VCS. But did you also know the Weekend Rental crew got a couple of them as well? They sure did. But how did their experiences differ from Kris's? Were they as impressed with the physical appearance of this weird console of the future? Did they download all of the recharged games? Did they apply their own operating systems and emulate the crap out of everything on the planet? Also, did they survive ARC? And how did Ryan's Comic-Con attendance go? Find out in Weekend Rental episode 124, The Gamers Played Atari Today.
Have you played Atari today?
I have.
Love that jingle.
I haven't, actually. I didn't play any Atari today. That's a lie.
I have.
I don't like to lie to the listeners.
Next, have you ever watched an Indiana Jones movie and thought to yourself, this is great, but how much more fun would it be if it was worse in every conceivable way?
I have.
Well, fortunately for you, the 1984 classic King Solomon's Mines exists, and Paul, Sean, and myself watched it. Yes, we reached the letter K in our alphabetical movie journey, and we went with Sean's pick, which was this steaming pile which he used to watch as a kid. It's chock full of inexplicable exploding bodies, a completely unbelievable love story between a young Sharon Stone and the film's lead character, Alan Quartermain, the villainous stylings of John Rhys Davies, the movie's one and only high point, and mountains of racism. See the film equivalent of Leftover Ham and Jelly Beans in a theater near you, episode 14, King Solomon's Mines.
Ham with jelly, like all together?
You'll have to listen to find out. Because
is it like a Tribe Called Quest? You got to say the whole thing?
It is discussed in the episode. Leftover Ham and Jelly Beans.
Oh, man. Finally, on this week's episode, Kris gets behind the news desk, is what I assume you meant to write, news desk again to bring you all the most up-to-date stories from the world of television, including current hot topics like the Will Smith slap. That's still a hot topic, right? Plus, Angie tries to figure out why she is watching The Walking Dead again. Karen is unimpressed with the Doctor Who Easter special. Kris falls in love with a pirate. Oh, it's so fucking good. Evan starts a couple of newish series that may or may not have anything to do with the paranormal. Don't miss all the action in this week's episode 251, I'll Pickle Your Chicken.
For all this great content and more from us and our partners, be sure to keep your eyes on geekade.com. Okay, we are back, and we're apparently going to have some very different starter kits because Dan wound up with a lot more games than me, and it's going to be interesting. So, Dan, kick us off. If you're listening to this for the first time, the way these starter kits work is if you have $100 to start a physical collection for a game system, you don't care about boxes and manuals. We're talking about just loose stuff. It has
to be... You've got all the peripherals you need.
Yeah.
Which is important for my list.
Same here. And it's got to be... it's region locked. If the system is region locked out of the box, then it's region locked on the list. And so, like, if it naturally plays PAL games, then don't worry about it. You can include PAL games in your list. But if it doesn't...
Then go nuts.
Without another accessory, which is for some reason not included in our... You have whatever accessories you need... then you're SOL. That's our story. We're sticking to it. That's the guidelines. Right. So, all right, Dan, get to work.
All right. Well, my first two games kind of tie together here. And like I said, this is a very me list, knowing the type of games that I like, and not having a ton of experience with the Saturn before this past week or so. Because even though we know what we're doing for the next 2 years, I definitely wait for like 3 days before, and I'm like, oh yeah, that thing. So the first two games on my list, at $15, I had Fighting Vipers, and at $20, I had Last Bronx. Now, have you played either of these, Kris? I would assume you've played Fighting Vipers.
I have played both of these, and they were both on my list originally until I got to something later in the alphabet, and I had to make some decisions.
Yeah, I think I know. I think I know what you're going with. So these games, along with a game that we'll talk about at the end of my list here, were very distinctly Sega in the way that they made fighting games. This was not their attempt to clone Street Fighter. This was them making a thing, right? Virtua Fighter, the original, was ugly as shit, but was certainly a game unto itself. And they decided to branch out from there with a couple of different fighting games, Fighting Vipers and Last Bronx being two of them. Fighting Vipers is just over the top, kind of silly, bombastic even, right, in the way that the characters are designed and just some of the moves that you can pull off. Whereas Last Bronx is a weapons-based fighter.
Yeah.
That
with some kicking anime cutscenes.
Oh yeah, for real, dude. Like, and these games, what I like about these games in particular is the way that they feel as you are playing them. Saturn did a couple of games really, really, really well, where like this was the version of this game to get. You had to get it on Saturn. And these games just are a blast to play. They are affordable. And if you consider yourself a fan of fighting games, I think these are two things that should 100% be in your collection. And on top of that, I feel like they are very, very much in the, you own a Saturn, these are very Saturn type games.
Yeah, there is the Saturn and the Dreamcast were both very they were both very good for fighting fans. Like if you were a big fighting game fan, these were systems to have.
Yeah.
Capcom supported them very well. I really wanted to put Street Fighter Alpha 2 on my list.
Oh, it's such a good version.
Because Street Fighter Alpha 2 on Saturn, Alpha 2 Gold in particular, was It was the way you played Street Fighter Alpha 2. It had to be the Saturn version. Same with
for sure.
The Japanese import, X-Men versus Street Fighter. Like these and stuff like Last Bronx, Fighting Vipers, Virtua Fighter, what was the Fighters Megamix, and that was a cross between a couple of them.
Yeah, that one was really just a little bit expensive for the list.
Yeah, I'm
considered it. I had it at $33. Fighters Megamix also has the Daytona USA car, I believe, is a playable character in that one.
It was a crossover between Fighting Vipers and Virtua Fighter 2.
Yeah. But a very cool game.
Yeah, very coul game. But that was the thing. Fighting games, the Saturn was the way to do it. It trounced the PlayStation in the fighting game department, with the exception of Soul Blade. I can't think of any other ones that were no, definitely the PlayStation had a real edge on it. You compare X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Oh, it's not even close.
It's not even close. The Saturn had that 4 meg cart that came with it, and it was just well, this is arcade perfect. This is amazing.
I think the only other one that you could make the argument for would be once Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 hit the PlayStation, because the Saturn has just those absurd loading times when Shang Tsung changes characters.
Yeah,
they were 5 to 6 seconds.
They were pretty bad.
If you play Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and I considered it for the list because
they were bad on PlayStation
too. They weren't that bad though.
They weren't.
I'm just saying,
bad.
A game that would have an edge. If you play Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 with characters, with literally anybody other than Shang Tsung, it's great on the Saturn. It's a great version. But
the same with Trilogy. I know. I'm trying to remember what was unique about the Saturn version of Trilogy. I know there's no perfect version of that game. No, the N64 one has no loading times, but the sound's more muffled, and it's missing a whole bunch of costumes,
a whole bunch of characters.
The PlayStation one's got all the characters, but the loading time is insane.
Well, because the thing about Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, right, was that Mortal Kombat 3 came out on the PlayStation exclusively for a time. And then Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 came out on the Saturn and then made its way back to PlayStation. Right? I think is how that went. It doesn't matter.
Well,
it's not on my list.
Those 32-bit ones were a little different because they were... Mortal Kombat 3 was Super Nintendo and Genesis. And then the Ultimate came out on both those platforms as well. Yeah. And Mortal Kombat 2 was released on Saturn late. And there was something I know I have Trilogy on Saturn. I'm trying to remember the Ultimate
with them.
3. It doesn't matter. They're not on the list.
Regardless. Fighting Vipers is great. Last Bronx, I feel, is a criminally underrated fighting game. It's very, very cool. Very, very well done. Feels completely different than Soul Blade, Soul Calibur. Just a really, really cool game that I think a lot of people should check out if they haven't.
And it's such a Sega game.
It feels very Sega. That's what I'm saying. On the Saturn, these games and then a couple other ones on this list are just... That's what I was going for. I was going for pretty Sega-heavy titles.
That's where I landed with my list, with the exception of my first game, which was literal filler. I had $7 left to spend, so I wound up with Myst for $6. This isn't the definitive version of Myst. However, Myst is so emblematic of this time period.
Yeah, for sure.
$6. It's a solid pick.
Yeah, we've had it on a couple different lists, I think, so far.
I don't know that I wholly agree with my list, but it's certainly a list that does some things. I made some choices. They were hard choices. I was also trying to do, how do I make this a Saturn list? And I had a feeling that you were going to go fighting game heavy, so I decided to go a different route. And
all right. Well, you know me.
I do.
You know me.
So what's your next two?
my next two games, one of these is a filler game, but it's $20 and I couldn't think of anything else to put on there. And I played it a little bit and it was fun. But at $20, I have Mass Destruction, which was a game that I was unfamiliar with until I started doing some research for this and checking out some different games. It came recommended from a couple different places. And then this next one is a little bit of a cheat. But I feel that for me personally, it's about as much as I like this game. And that would be the Nights into Dreams sampler. That is $10.
Okay.
I think Nights into Dreams is a really fun 10 minutes. I just don't want to spend much more time with it than that. I really like it. I really like the idea, and I want to love the game way more than I actually do in practice. And for $10, this little sampler that you could play of it, I think for me, like I said, was more than enough to be like, this is really cool. All right, I'm going to go back to Last Bronx. Or the other game on the list, this Mass Destruction game. Do you know anything about this one?
I don't. No, I'm completely in the dark on that.
Mass Destruction is a game. Who put it? I don't know who put it out. Let me look. NMS Software. I don't know who the hell that is either. Doesn't really matter. Mass Destruction is this interesting, kind of top-down shooter. You're a tank. And you can blow up literally everything on the map, right? And you control the tank from like a way zoomed out view. So you get this really like a big landscape in front of you. And as you're driving around in a tank, you're blowing stuff up, and you've got machine guns and, big missiles and shit and landmines. There's a flamethrower you can get as a power-up eventually. It's just pretty cool. Like, it's just a fun game when you're like, I just want to go around and blow a bunch of shit up. There you go. I don't really have, like I said, this was a $20 throw-in because I didn't have anything else good to put on there. And I wanted to get close to $100. So, it's kind of like, I don't know, like Desert Strike. You know Desert Strike, right?
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Neat.
It's an interesting little thing.
Huh.
Yeah. It's not the prettiest game in the world, but it's got good explosions, which is kind of what you're looking for in a game like this. The tank controls very well. It's not slow like in most tank games. I mean, it's not super duper fast, but you're going around the stages pretty good. There's a decent amount of like a run and gun kind of feel to the game, even though you're not like an infantry dude. You're not like a soldier. You're the tank. I don't know. It's cool. Animation's good. It's a decent little game.
All right. That's a cool set of picks, and not super different from where I went next.
Okay.
I actually considered what you did with Knights because I don't feel that much differently than you do about that game. I do like it more than you do, but don't want to spend too much more than maybe a half an hour on it.
You're not sitting down for a marathon Nights session.
Exactly.
Not a thing you're doing.
It is very... I usually don't spend more than 20 minutes at a time on it. Like, I'll play the first level, beat the first boss, and then I kind of peter out. Like,
yeah, I'm kind of done with it after that.
I don't want to be, but I'm just not. I'm just not good enough at it. And
maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just not good enough at it. Maybe
I don't know. But that was a good call going with that demo disc.
Yeah, for $10.
I did consider it, but I ultimately wound up going with the full game. Mm-hmm. The not for resale version, which is only $30. Yeah, which is, I think, a pretty solid deal for something that is so intrinsically Sega. I think
there's good value there.
Yeah, it's a solid value for $30. I do think the $10 demo disc is a pretty solid plan, but I'm going to stick with my my original bit here because there's not a ton of content in Nights into Dreams, but it is such an intrinsic Saturn game.
It's so unique.
It is, yeah. It's a very unique thing. It's Yuji Naka doing something new. It's not like the platformer that was going to change the world and take on Mario 64 like a lot of people
they really wanted
it was going to be. Sega really wanted something to take on Mario 64, and 3D Sonic wasn't happening, and they wound up with Nights into Dreams, which is a really cool concept, had a really good look, but that basic gameplay style is 80s arcade. Like, there's not a lot. It's complex, but in the way old arcade games were complex. It's moving along a 2D track that shifts along a 3D space, so it looks like it's a 3D game, but it's not really.
It's not a ton of meat on the bone.
That said, what's there is so unique and so fun and so important as a piece of the Sega Saturn's library. Since I wasn't focusing on fighting games, I wanted to try to get as much of this stuff as I could in there.
Yeah.
And I felt bad just doing the demo disc, so I went for the $30, not for resale. But I think I'm going to make a last minute change here based on what you did. And
I think you should.
Here's how I'm going to, because I agree with the demo disc thing. Get the demo disc, and if you really like it, later on, get the full game.
Yeah, get Christmas Nights, which is absurdly expensive for what it is. But
so I said I'm going to change myself to the demo disc at $10, and then
also put in Mass Destruction. Good for you.
I'm gonna go a different route, and this is going to get me at exactly $100 because for $21 you can get Bug.
See, I saw some stuff about that. Didn't have time to get to it. It would have put me over anyway.
I haven't spent a ton of time with Bug, but it is a very uniquely Sega game, and it's a platformer. It's connected to the Sonic franchise in some way, shape, or form. Okay. It is the kind of game I've always wanted to mess with because it seems like it's got an interesting personality. And I think that saving the money on just playing the beginning of Nights and also getting Bug, if you're not going the fighting game central route, Bug for Saturn is a pretty uniquely Saturn thing. I feel like I remember being told the sequel was better, but the sequel is also, I believe, more expensive.
Much more, yeah, from what I remember looking earlier today.
So Bug is like, I would have loved to include something like Astal too, but
Bug is I think I saw that at 60 today.
Yeah, it's a little beefy.
Yeah,
Bug is
seemed
really
worth
neat.
It.
Yeah, it's such a neat looking game. It is a 2D platformer with a 3D spin on it. Whereas like you can walk into the foreground and the background pretty freely. So it's almost a 3D platformer, but it's all kind of coming at you from a 2D perspective. Okay. But the character designs are really interesting. What I like about this game as a representation of the kind of stuff that the Saturn did well is that this is, whereas the PlayStation was really kind of taking things forward and like really jumping into 3D tech for making 3D games.
Yeah.
The Saturn really felt like, in a lot of ways, an evolution of what the Genesis did right. And this is a kind of platformer that's really rooted in the kind of platforms we saw on the 16-bit era, but also done in a way that could not possibly be done on those 16-bit platforms, because it is a polygonal 3D game. Like, that's the way the environments work. You have to move in all the different directions. It's a very cool thing. It's not an absolute masterpiece, but it is such a Saturn thing, such a Sega feeling game, and I think an important piece of the Saturn's lineage to put it on my list.
Yeah, all right. That
good call on that demo. You've changed my mind.
Thank you, sir. Next two on my list, one of them was a game that I just felt really had to be on there, and the other one was pretty cool when I was messing around a little bit. So the first one there, Pro Pinball at $6. It's a fun pinball game.
It is. It's pretty good. I chose Myst instead of it, but yeah, that's a good choice too. Yeah. Because I looked at Myst as well, but I had Myst on one of my earlier starter kits, and I was like, you know what? I'm going with Pro Pinball. It's $6. I like it. It's a fun pinball simulator. The table looks good. It feels good to play, right? Which is like the most important thing in a pinball game. It feels good. The triggers feel responsive, or the flippers feel responsive and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I definitely enjoyed that. And then for $13, Sega Rally Championship. Very, very good racing game. Sega did some racing games. I looked at Daytona USA. That one was only $7. I probably could have finagled something else in there. But Rally Championship is just a better overall game. I never owned a Saturn. One of my buddies in high school did. And one of the games that we played the most whenever I would go hang out at my buddy John's house was Sega Rally Championship. It controls really well. It felt like a worthy competitor to what PlayStation was doing at the time with the Ridge Racer series. Because, Ridge Racer was just this massive success and a huge deal, and Namco just killed it with that. And the Saturn launched with Daytona USA, and that was not nearly as good as Ridge Racer. But then, a little bit later, Sega Rally Championship came out, and it's just a really, really solid, really fun racing game. And again, it feels very identifiably Saturn. Like that time period in Sega's history, the importance of Sega's arcade business being brought to the home console, and those kind of arcade experiences being brought to the home console, coupled with all of these different things that they were doing for the home console. You've kind of got that perfect blend there in Rally Championship, and it is a worthwhile expenditure at $13. I concur. That's a very good pick. It's one that I'd considered, didn't make my list, and you'll find out why in a bit.
Oh, I already know why. I know you.
I figured you do, but
it was on my list too. But it's a big chunk of change, so I had to take it away.
Well, my next one is possibly predictably, but it's less expensive than I thought it was going to be, which is what made me really have to stop and consider things.
Yeah.
And at $46, Panzer Dragoon 2.
Yeah. It was really, really hard to take it off the list.
As far as I'm concerned, this is the Saturn game. Yes, Panzer Dragoon Saga is certainly a thing.
Yeah.
There's just no way that was ever going to be affordable. And also, I like the shooter ones. And Panzer Dragoon is a freaking masterpiece. As far as on-rail shooters go, it's one of the absolute best. It's so damn good. And not just because it's so damn good to play, but it sounds good and it looks amazing. This is one of the best looking Saturn games. And I know $46 is just about half of our budget overall.
Yeah, that's what kept me from it. That's the $46. Because nothing you were about to say about this game is wrong.
Yeah,
not a thing.
It's my favorite Saturn game. It's the one I go back to more often than any other Saturn games, with the exception of maybe Puzzle Fighter, which is $45.
Yeah.
And like that one, I couldn't justify at all because that one's just available. It's regularly available on other platforms.
You can just get it right now.
Yeah, you can go get it on whatever modern game system you're playing. You can get Puzzle Fighter on for less money, and that's fine. But boy, the amount of time I spent on Puzzle Fighter on Saturn was massive. But we're talking about starting a Saturn collection. If you want to get one of, like, what was the Saturn really capable of, Panzer Dragoon 2 is just top tier, and I can't say enough good things about it. It's $46, but it is worth those $46. I believed enough in the other cuts that I made to make this ultimately worth it on my list.
It's hard to disagree because that game is so damn good. Ultimately, and this is the kind of crazy person that I am when we're sitting here doing this, I am going to have a Panzer Dragoon game on one of my lists. So I was okay with cutting this from this one. Where that is, you'll find out in, like a while, like 6 months, but it'll be there. All right. So my last two, $8 a piece. But if we're talking Sega Saturn, you have to get some flavor of Virtua Cop. Right? Virtua Cop 2, a little bit more expensive. The original Virtua Cop, $8. We're assuming that you have the guns already. It's fucking Virtua Cop. Like, that game, you have to have a shooter, right? Saturn was so big with shooters, and I looked at Area 51 because I really like Area 51.
Area 51's great.
But it's $23, and is it that much better than Virtua Cop?
Not ultimately, no.
At the end of the day, I don't think it is.
House of the Dead's not going to happen.
House of the Dead was just so I was shocked at how much money that was.
That one's always been a pricey Saturn one, yeah.
Just absolutely shocked at how much money that was. So Virtua Cop 2 was like $14, $13, $14, something like that. Going with the original Virtua Cop meant that I could squeeze a couple other things on here. So I ultimately think it was a good choice. It's a super fun game. And then finally closing out my list is Virtua Fighter 2, also at $8. That feels like fucking highway robbery. For how good Virtua Fighter 2 is, for that game to only be $8. When I look at some of this other shit,
probably because it's so common.
Sure, I get that, but then like I look at some of this other stuff, I'm like, man, if you fucking pay $500 for that, you have your head examined. Just buy a lot of copies of Virtua Fighter 2. That game's great. Virtua Fighter 2 really made me, like, I loved Street Fighter, right? I loved Street Fighter 2. Loved it. It was great. Virtua Fighter 2 is the game that really made me fall in love with fighting games. And for all the weirdness and the complexities and the systems and all of the different things that fighting games encompass, it like rekindled my love of the kung fu movies that I watched as a kid, because it felt, and it's not, but it felt so authentic. Like this felt real, you know, and it looked great. It was such an upgrade over the original Virtua Fighter, which I also love. But going to Virtua Fighter 2, the new characters that were added, the animation was smoother, the graphics were better, it controls like a fucking dream on the Saturn. Same thing with Fighting Vipers and Last Bronx. You know, you look at those 3 fighting games on my list, and you have just, if you're a fighting game fan like I am, and especially like I was at that time, these are 3 stellar examples of 3 very different styles of fighting games, with Fighting Vipers being over the top, Last Bronx being weapons based, and Virtua Fighter 2 being grounded in reality. I fucking love this game, and I don't think you can have a Saturn without it.
Nice. Yeah. Good picks.
And that put me at $100 even. I was like, all right, sold.
Cool. Well, what I have left is $16. And that will get me the Saturn 3-pack. There
you go.
Which contains Virtua Fighter 2, Virtua Cop, and Daytona USA. That is such a stupid good deal.
It is.
$16. So you had Virtua Fighter 2, and what was the one right before that? Was Virtua Cop?
Yeah. For $16 for the 2 of them.
For $16. I mean, I think
for
you got to make the trade.
You also squeeze in Daytona USA.
Exactly. You squeeze in Daytona USA. So
sure.
There you go.
I felt it was derivative after having Sega Rally Championship, but I see your point.
All right, but at that point, why not, right? Why the hell not? This is the thing to get. If you can only get one thing to start your, like, seriously, you have your only option is to get one thing to start your Saturn collection. It's this 3-pack.
Yeah.
Virtua Fighter 2 is everything. Virtua Fighter 2, Virtual Cop, and Daytona USA. They're everything Dan already said they are. Virtual Cop is such a fun like-gun shooter, and like-gun shooters were great on this platform. Virtual Cop 2, House of the Dead, Area 51.
Yeah, there's just so many good ones.
I don't know that there weren't any. I can't think of any more than those 4, but those are great.
Revolution X was fucking fun.
Was that on Saturn?
Yeah.
God, there was a Saturn port of Revolution X. I have that on Super Nintendo, I think. Good God.
As stupid as that game is.
Shooting CDs.
Oh, it's great. Great
Good times. Yeah, that's the Saturn 3-pack is a pretty solid way to go. I don't know what to say. We already covered these games. So.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter 2. That's my shit right there.
Yeah, I wish. God, the things I wished I could have fit in here. Street Fighter Alpha 2 was a huge one. Puzzle Fighter, Fighting Vipers, Tomb Raider.
Yeah, Tomb Raider's really good on the Saturn.
It was, more importantly, the Saturn was where Tomb Raider debuted. And the first release of Tomb Raider was in October of 96 in Europe on Saturn. Like, it was there first, which is weird because Tomb Raider is such a PlayStation thing. But it was originally on Saturn, which is wild. And just for the historical importance of it, like, I don't love the original Tomb Raider, but like, it's kind of a really important game for that generation. And
no, for sure,
$16 isn't a bad way to take a swing at it. But there's so much other stuff that, like, you know, you wish you could do all the Panzer Dragoons. You wish you could do Burning Rangers, Shining Force 3,
so Guardian Heroes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are so many great Saturn games that are just so far out of the realm of affordability. It's hilarious. Like, Magic Knight Ray Earth is $499. Panzer Dragoon Saga Loose $750.
Yeah, just absurd.
God, House of the Dead is $258. That's always been expensive. I didn't realize that close to the top.
Yeah, I was so surprised that it was that. Like, I knew it was expensive, but I did not know it was that crazy.
I actually traded my copy of Albert Odyssey for a copy of Final Fight Guy on Super Nintendo a while back.
Not a bad trade.
Nah, they're both around the same value, and Final Fight Guy is more important to me than Albert Odyssey, which I'll never play and don't know anything about, and I just have had it for years. Herc's Adventures, you know,
cool
freaking
game.
Expensive as all hell. The original Resident Evil is nuts. It's crazy expensive on there.
Yeah, not something I would suggest you get on Saturn, though.
Just for the sheer absurdity of it.
There are certain things where it's like, this feels like it should be somewhere else. Like, if you're going to put the original Resident Evil somewhere, that better be on your PlayStation list next month.
Where the hell was Sonic Jam? Ooh,
I think that
Sonic Jam.
Yeah, pretty expensive.
$129.
Yeah, nope.
Yeah, nope.
Nope. Just nope.
It's a tough
What was
system.
really surprising about the Saturn as I was going through the list today was that there is actually a shocking number of games that are not absurdly expensive.
Yeah, I really thought this was going to be even more difficult than it was, but
I did not think I was going to get 8 games, or, you know, technically, if I swap those two and put the 3-pack on there, 9 games for $100 on the Saturn. I didn't, and especially games of this caliber. Like, and with a little bit more time or experience, I might switch Mass Destruction out for something. I don't ultimately think that I would, because it was fun, but you know, being able to get these types of games on here, I think is pretty outstanding for $100.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can't argue. I can't argue with Panzer Dragoon 2. Like, I can't.
Yeah, that was like, I really thought Panzer Dragoon 2 was going to be more loose. I really did.
It's when we did the TurboGrafx list. I had to put Splatterhouse on there.
Yeah.
I had to. It's expensive.
How the hell is Panzer Dragoon 2 less expensive than the first game?
I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Complete, it's, the complete original is 85 and 2 is 137.
Yeah.
That's bananas. Freaking Saga, $750.
Yeah, fuck you.
Loose.
That's absurd.
That is completely insane.
That's absurd, and you're just being a dick at that point. It's just not all right.
But that should wrap it up for us. So we did it. We did our Saturn.
We did.
We did it.
Next
we made
month.
it through. PlayStation
1. PSX.
That's going to be an interesting one because that is way more affordable than Saturn, and there's a way bigger library.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see how different or similar our lists end up.
I'm really interested to see how many copies of Frogger we can buy for $100.
Probably not enough as we should be able to buy for $100. I know you do.
So good. All right. It's late. It's actually not that late. I'm just really tired because my dog woke me up at 4:00 this morning. So
yeah, that sucks.
Let's the most mild thunder. What? No, you have to be awake. Don't you hear this shit
ever?
Something's going on, and you got to know about it. What the hell is Lost and Found Volume 2? Sorry, I was just looking at that. Is this some Saturn game called Lost and Found Volume 2?
Oh no, I'm looking at the PlayStation list right now, and I sold Suikoden 2 complete in box for a way cheaper price than the $353 that it's going for now. So
yeah,
joke's on me, I guess.
Things have gone up in price quite a lot.
No, I'm happy that it got to somebody that actually wanted it. I mean, I like the game but I'll just emulate it. I don't care.
Yeah.
It could not matter any less to me.
Wow, there's a lot of stuff listed here with no prices. And there's just a bunch of demo discs and stuff. Wow, there's a ton for under $5. There is an insane amount of stuff for under $5. Where's Frogger? I gotta know. What do you mean? What do you mean it's not here?
Fuck
just
you,
did a search
charting.
for Frogger. Because it keeps adding more as I scroll down.
Yeah, you gotta scroll all the way down first.
Yeah, that's a lot of nuts. That's a lot of nuts.
Oh my god, there's so much. I mean, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire second edition greatest hits for $1? That's got to be on your list, Chris. It's got to be.
Does it?
Yeah, oh for sure. That game's amazing.
Frogger for PlayStation, $5.07.
Sold.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Spoilers. Frogger's on both of our lists. Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. Maybe something will bump it off. All right, that is our show. Join us next time when Dan and I will be kicking off Mania 2022. Dan, tell everyone what we're in for.
We are doing not a round robin. I'm a fucking liar. We're doing a best of 64 NCAA knockout style tournament with fighting games this year.
Wow.
So we are going through. The way that I'm setting it up is I'm just kind of looking at overall, I feel like the best arbiter in this situation is a Metacritic review, kind of taking that compilation of critical review scores and kind of picking the highest rated version of the game. So unless there are glaring differences that would need to be included in two different things, but that really doesn't happen. But we're going to put 64 fighting games against each other and try to see if anything can beat Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
It's going to be rough, but we'll see.
I mean, there have been some surprises as we've done this before, like games that I didn't think would make it or games that I thought would go very far into a tournament have gotten voted out pretty early. So we'll see.
That is the way it goes, man. That is the way it goes.
Love the upsets.
All right, we are on most social media platforms, and if you want to get in touch with us, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff, like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, the Geekade Patreon, which helps keep this show running week after week, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. This show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by Banjo Guy Ollie. You can learn all about his wonderful music and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in the show notes. And finally, as always, we'd also like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making this show listenable for all you folks, and we'd like to thank all you folks for listening in the first place. That's it, everybody. On behalf of Dan and myself, keep playing games.